What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're going to talk about Mehmed II, who is an exceptional city attacker and open field combatant. He is super flexible in who you can pair him with, and we're going to talk all about it. If you like Commander Guides, you should definitely like and subscribe to the channel because we're going to cover all of the new commanders and the old ones, and we are a sponsored creator for Rise of Civilizations. Now, when we do a commander guide, there's 4 things that we cover. We first talk about the skills that are on the commander, and we read them because, man, when I paraphrase, even I mess them up. So we're going to read them, and it's very important to understand what their skills do because if you see them on the opposing side of the battlefield, you want to know how to counter them, even if you're not using them. And then we're going to talk about the talent you might put on this commander. We're going to unlock him. We're going to summon him because we've got the sculptures here. And then we're going to talk about how you can summon this commander. Where do you get the sculptures and how do you skill them up? Then, perhaps the most fun part, we're going to talk about the pairings. So let's review the skills on Mehmed II. This first skill deals damage, a base damage factor of 450, max factor of 1150, in a forward-facing fan shape, hitting up to 5 targets, and deals additional damage to city garrisons and watchtowers. It is a damage factor of 700 at max. This commander is clearly very good at hitting many targets or hitting a city. Up next is Lord of Land and Sea, which is a solid attack bonus of 20%, doesn't care about what kind of troop it is, and a skill damage bonus of 20%, and this doesn't mention active skills, could be passive skills as well, it looks like. Very, very strong. This tells me you're going to want to pair this commander with other commanders that do a lot of damage. Next up is Faith, or Fadi? I don't know if that's intended to be spelled that way. Anyways, this does damage when you are attacking cities, 10% chance to do an additional damage factor of 1,000 at max. Clearly, this is a commander that you might use to attack city. And lastly, the Sage King increases troop capacity by an upwards of 10% and rallied army capacity by 10%. This is a very, very big deal. I'm not seeing a lot of places where you can increase rallied army capacity. In fact, the only other place I've seen is Alliance Technology, besides obviously getting the castle to the maximum. So, seems pretty powerful and a unique effect here. The final skill is the Expertise skill, which is enhancing the active skill. It's making it so that now the max damage factor goes from 1150 to 1350. It makes it so that the damage that is done to garrisons and watchtowers goes up from 700 to 800, and now there is a 50% chance to deal a second burst of additional damage to garrisons and watchtowers for a damage factor of 500. Whew! I mean, this commander is designed to roast player cities and to be strong in the open field, and honestly, man, rally army capacity is a big deal, even for capturing objectives, and I would argue this commander might be one of the better ones for capturing flags, for capturing passes. Man, really, really powerful stuff here. Now, in order to look at the talent trees that are on this commander, we are going to need to summon them to the battlefield, so we're going to do that now. Mehmed II, confirm. I mean, there he is. They need to add fireworks. I'm telling you, that'd be sweet. Some, like, you know, graphics, explosions. I'm excited. We unlocked him. You get the flare from me. And now let's go and take a look at the talents. Mehmed II is a conquering skill tree and leadership commander, and there's a lot to be excited about this combination of talents that are available for us to pick up. Now, if you are attacking player cities, I would advocate heavily for making your way to Tier of Blessing, avoiding the talents on the side of the tree here, but then making your way over to Rejuvenate for a ton of Rage to get a lot of nukes rolling. I don't love getting healing herbs or fresh recruits, assuming you're going to fill the rally anyways, because there's no healing on this commander, and Like, look, if you're leading a rally against a player objective, I'm going to assume you could fill that rally anyways. And, like, should you really be swarm attacking? I guess if you're swarm attacking, you would want fresh recruits. But, again, I'm going to tilt my head and look at you funny if that's a thing you say you want to do. Now, if you are rallying in the Ark of Osiris, then in that case, I would recommend you make your way to Name of the King, grabbing Armored to the Teeth and Armed to the Teeth off to the side, but not before you pick up Rejuvenate. If you haven't noticed, I'm a huge fan of generating rage, and I love that this builds an engine. The more rage you generate, the more skills you get. The more skills you get, the more rage you generate. That is excellent. I love everything about that. I love literally everything about that. Now, if you were to do a primarily skill tree build, and I think there's reasons to do that, then what you would do is make your way all the way down to Feral Nature, grabbing every required talent along the way, and from there, I like the idea of making your way up to Strategic Prowess. The reason I say that is that after you use a skill, the troop gets a defense increase for the next 2 seconds, and you're going to be getting so many skills firing off. 2 seconds is going to be plenty of time to approach 100% uptime. I mean, I'm being a little aggressive. I'm assuming you pair with another commander that generates rage, but I'm just saying, this is going to be really, really powerful to have picked up. And of course, at that point, you're also getting Hidden Wrath, more rage generation, and we're talking about open field combat. Fresh recruits would be pretty sweet to get. Overall, I love this combination of talents that you can pick up on this commander. Normally, you've got leadership and attack, and the skill tree gets a ton of rage, which means I'm assuming you're using commanders that are going to do huge amounts of damage, which should be the case with Mehmed II because of his second skill, boosting the active skill damage. Now, if we get a quick look at the skills, we're going to take a peek here at where you can unlock this commander, and that is within the tavern. Occasionally, they'll be available in the expedition, and after you've unlocked them, you can then use your universal sculptures to skill them up. Haha. Now you can see because we unlocked this commander, the Writer of History bundle is available. I'll be picking this up in a little bit when we are off camera. The value is there. So with that said, we've talked about how you can unlock this commander. It took me well over 200 gold keys before I finally obtained him. But you know, I have other projects I'm working on now, so I'm not particularly in a rush to power him up. Who should be in a rush to power up this commander? Probably the kind of players who are rallying major objectives, who are rallying player cities, who are rallying in the Ark of Osiris. Now, when we talk about who should be getting this commander, it's important to talk about who else you could be investing in instead, right? Because you're making a trade-off. Do I invest in this commander or some other commander? And why am I saying it should be the people who are rallying objectives, besides the obvious fact that, like, look, you get the bonus here for attacking cities, you get the rallied army capacity over here, which is a big deal. If you really wanted an open field commander, we have to look at this first skill a little cautiously, because it does a big area of effect, but its max damage is 1150 for just hitting other players. The additional damage factor here is only if you're hitting cities. So if you're not hitting a city, you could have instead had a commander like Yi Seong-Gye. And Yi Seong-Gye is going to be doing even more damage. Now, you're not going to have the rallied army capacity. You're not going to have the troop capacity for being on the open field like you do with the fourth skill of our friend Mehmed II, right? Like, you're not going to get the army capacity, which is a really big deal for open field. But you get way more damage for next to nothing, for free. And most of us are only maxing like the first skill, maybe the second skill on a legendary anyways. So if you're that kind of a player, if you fall into that category, and P.S. most of us do, then I'm going to make the argument that maybe Mehmed II should not be one of your top priorities. I'm going to make the argument they should probably not be one of the top priorities. He really is a commander geared toward ultimately hitting a player city. Otherwise, you're missing out on some damage. And that lost damage on the primary skill is only made up for on this last skill by virtue of simply having more rallied army capacity. That's where it's sort of made up for. So if you are, and I want to hit this point home, the player who is actually rallying the objectives, then this commander should be the priority. If you're not, then I don't know, man. Maybe someone else should be the priority. Someone who is more oriented toward open field and something else that you're really interested in, like garrison defense, like battling barbarians. Just going to throw it out there. Now, with that said, let's get a look at the pairings, and let's talk about the pairings in terms of who you could pair with. We'll start with the legendary tier, and then make our way down to the epic tier, along the way talking about the different types of uses, primary, secondary, and so forth. First legendary commander on our list is Richard the First, and Richard the First is not the first commander I will be pairing with, because his first skill doesn't do skill damage, so to my knowledge, the skill damage boost doesn't lift his active skill. The synergy is not terribly exceptional. The next commander we might get a look at is Minamoto, and you could bring a full march of cavalry. My recommendation, well, I guess you could use either commander as the primary if you wanted to for open field combat. If you were using them in a rally capacity, I think this commander is less exciting because these cavalry talents or these cavalry skills are not going to apply to everyone that comes to the rally. But if you're doing open field combat, I think the pairing is good because the skill damage lift here is going to be really exceptional on Minamoto. Now, the same story is true for Cao Cao. If you use them for open field, you could use Cao Cao as the primary. The only problem I have here is that this is a mobility commander rather than a skill tree commander. So I actually would consider using instead Mehmed II as the primary, Cao Cao as the secondary. You're going to get a boost to the damage done. You're going to enjoy the rage restoration. You can bring all cavalry and feel really good about the amount of damage that you're going to do. And there is some healing on Cao Cao that will benefit from using Mehmed II as the primary. That is because of the healing herbs talent. Good synergy all around with our friend Cao Cao. Charles Martel is a commander I would not pair with Mehmed II, and that is because his first skill does not do skill damage. Julius Caesar is kind of a curious pairing. You can do it. I think it's strong. In my perfect world, this first skill would actually do damage as well, so that you would get the benefit of Mehmed II's second skill. That said, they're both really designed to be attacking cities. They're both designed to have a large army in the open field. Pop an army expansion. You can feel really good about that. I think as a pairing, they're great. You can bring a mixed army and be in a very strong position. Next up is El Cid, and you could bring full archers and do a ton of damage pairing with El Cid. I think this is actually a totally fine pairing. You could use either commander as the primary using skill tree talents with archery talents if you use El Cid, or if you're using Mehmed II, I would focus primarily on the skill tree with supplementation from the leadership tree. Next up is a pairing that I think is a match made in heaven, and that is Frederick the First with Mehmed II. And I believe that when it says increase skill damage, this includes the additional skill damage offered by Frederick. I assume that's true. Let me know in the comments if it is. Anyways, assuming that it is true, you're going to get a ton more damage. You've got healing here, which is really good, benefiting from healing herbs. And also, we're going to increase the size of the army and do extra damage to player cities. I mean, pairing these two together and attacking player cities seems incredibly powerful, and it's certainly something I would consider doing if I was the alpha in my alliance. Up next is Yi Seong-Gye, and boy, is this a sweet pairing. This is sweet because both commanders do area of effect damage, and they do a ton of it. Both of them are elevating skill damage. I'm going to assume that these stack. If they don't stack, then this is less impressive. But I'm going to assume the skill. Well, here's the skill damage. Apologies. I'm going to assume the skill damage stacks, and you can do a ton of area effect damage with the two of these commanders. They are going to be pretty weak. If they get targeted, they can get focused down very easily because they have nothing defensive whatsoever. But oh my goodness, the AoE insanity with these two commanders is on point. Love the combo. Up next is Hannibal Barca. If you're running this pairing, I would use Hannibal Barca as the primary, and that is because this first skill is going to do a defense reduction, and if you've got the expertise skill, that's AoE defense reduction, and then you've got the AoE skill from Mehmed II. You are going to do sick damage, hit player cities, hit objectives, do everything with these two commanders together. Another match made in heaven, very, very powerful, and certainly one I would be considering if I was a big spender. Up next at the epic tier, you could pair with Boudicca as the primary, using her mostly for the rage generation from the skill tree. That said, I really don't love the fact that you're going to be putting a lot of points into maybe peacekeeping for movement speed or integration. Ugh, not the best. If you are feeling spendy and can put the stars into Mehmed II to level him up all the way, you could use Mehmed II as the primary with Boudicca as the secondary, and I think it's an okay pairing, but not out of this world. Perhaps more interesting and exceptional is Kusunoki bringing all archers to the battlefield. You've got a huge boost in the skill damage here, and I don't know, is this damage lifted by skill damage as well? Is this lifted by the second skill here? I think it might be. Bring all archers, and you can do a ton of damage when pairing with Kusunoki. You could use Kusunoki as the primary to save experience tomes on leveling up these commanders. CPO is kind of an interesting pairing with Mehmed II. There's really no synergy over here in military life with the active skill damage boost that Mehmed II is offering. But with that said, they both do damage to player cities. They both are increasing your troop capacity, which means in the open field, you're going to do work. And attacking player cities, you're going to do work. And, look, there's a chance when you're attacked to increase your damage, which seems like a really big deal. The healing factor here stacks nicely with healing herbs. If you pick that up, and both of them are leadership commanders, you're probably going to have to end up picking that up. If you want to save on experience tomes, use CPO as the primary, rocking the leadership and attack tree. Otherwise, if you are spendy, you could go with Mehmed II as the primary and do pretty darn well. If you go the route of Joan of Arc, well, I don't know. Don't. Joan of Arc with Mehmed II is not on plan, I think. I mean, I guess there's a ton of buffs that you get the benefit from, but if you're in the open field, I don't know. You really want to be using a commander that's got big active skill damage. You could use Pelagius, and I think that is actually an interesting pairing. Bring all cavalry. I would probably use Pelagius as the primary in that case, although you certainly could use Mehmed II. Another pairing you could get a look at is Belisarius, and if you did this, you'd probably want to be using all cavalry. In fact, you would. I think the defense reduction is interesting. You use that as the primary commander, reduce the defense, and then hit him with the AoE from Mehmed II. I think it's okay, not out of this world. An interesting pairing, and this is actually super on point. AoE tag team here with Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu's going to generate a ton of rage. Bring all infantry. It's going to make you a little tankier, which is something that Mehmed II really benefits from, and you're lifting the skill damage. This is only active skill damage, however, but assuming that the skill damage lift from the two of them stacks, then you're in a really good position. Up next is Ulgi Mundok. I would use Ulgi Mundok as the primary if you're doing this pairing, and that is because of the defense reduction after Ulgi Mundok's primary skill. There is synergy here. With the active skill damage lift. Bring all infantry and enjoy the heck out of Strike Back, potentially elevating the damage from the AoE from Mehmed II. Yeah, that seems good. Who would I use as the primary? You could use Ulji Mundok with the infantry and attack, and I think he should be the primary, again, because of this defense reduction. The thing I don't love about those trees is that they don't have quite as much rage restoration as the skill tree does. So the thing you're really focused on here is benefiting a lot from full infantry talents. Only a few more pairings left that we need to get a look at. One of those is Herman. And, I mean, you can pair them, and I think it's fine. Herman does rage reduction. He does damage to the target. He silences them. He gives you a slightly more tanky unit. I love the march speed bonus. Bring all archers. And there's a chance that you do additional rage restoration. That seems good. Overall, I think this is a fine pairing. You could use Herman as the primary, benefit from the skill tree, benefit from having all archers and the archer talent tree. A solid pairing. Up next is Baibars, and I think Baibars is more on point for a pairing, and that is because you could use that for the open field. You could also use it for attacking player cities. Baibars has area of effect damage, bring all cavalry, and you could do work with this pairing. I'd use Baibars as the primary, benefiting from the skill tree and the cavalry tree. Up next is Osman the First, and this is actually a fascinating pairing. Neither of them cares about a particular type of troop, so you could invest a fair amount in the leadership tree with Mehmed II or Osman as the primary. They've got the same talent trees, so it doesn't matter if you've got Mehmed or Osman as the primary. May as well be Osman, and that way you can save on experience, tomes, and stars. Osman cares a lot about doing huge amounts of damage, and guess what? Mehmed II helps elevate that, so that seems totally on plan. Whew. We still don't know when Constantine or Saladin are going to hit, and I think they may still have a rebalance in their future. They still seem really strong to me. To be determined what that ultimately looks like. I don't know, and when I do, I will certainly share it. We've covered a lot of ground here. Just to kind of summarize my favorite pairings, if you're attacking player cities with Mehmed II, Hannibal Barca as the primary with Mehmed II as the secondary is my probably top choice, followed very closely by Frederick. From there, probably Caesar will be my third choice, and all of them are quite exceptional. I hope you found this review of Mehmed II to be helpful. If so, please do let me know in the comments, like and subscribe. I'm eager to use this commander at some point, but since I'm not the one leading the rallies against objectives, I'm a ways away from needing this style of commander, but it's fair to say that even if you're not rallying objectives, like look, these first two skills, which is all most of us are going to max out on a legendary anyways, are really, really strong for building an area of effect attacker, and you could invest in this commander if that's something that you really wanted to do. I would say, obviously, this commander is leaning heavily towards attacking player cities. So if you don't think you're attacking player cities, then it might steer you in a slightly different direction with a commander more like Yi Song-ye, who you can benefit from garrison defense as well as smashing area of effect damage in the open field. All right, we're going to say goodbye for real. There was so much to talk about. Let me know what your favorite pairings with this commander are. I'd be eager to hear them. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.